What is happening, people? Just checking that we've got all our audio live. Looking good on my end. All right, here we are, back again with another episode live of the End Product Podcast with myself, Stish, and of course, as usual, my sparring partner, Quinny, is back in the mix. How are you doing, Quinny? Good week?
It's been well, I don't know if it's been a good week. It's definitely been like a long week. I think we were saying last week when we were on, man, like body clock or whatever was totally shifted with the whole London trip, because that Sunday felt like a Saturday, didn't it? You know, so like the rest of the week, a jet lag, exactly. It's totally off. So this week it's been weird because like all the card swap stuff and all the drama llama that's been going on, like it just feels like days have disappeared on us. You know, just down to like nothing's happening. You know, just for me, you know, in here like making content and all that kind of stuff. Like I just can't believe we're already halfway through Wednesday. You know, so quickly. You know, we're halfway through. We had Champions League last night. There's Champions League tonight. Arsenal City tonight as well for when we're recording. You know, and so like it's been a big week. I think I could say. I don't know if it's been a good one, but it's definitely been a big one in some ways. You know.
Yeah, I'll kind of go with that as well. I think it's flown by the last few days. I was just talking to you off air. I was trying to figure out when we recorded last week, like how many sort of rewards openings there's been, because on top of all the kind of like noise that's been happening on Twitter and around sort of social media about what's happening on Sorare at the minute, which we'll get into, no doubt. I think one of the things I was trying to work out was how many like reward openings have we had since? Because I think like you obviously like super busy on the content end, and I dip my toes in with a little bit of like shorts and a bit of TikTok and occasionally a bit of YouTube. Done a few bits and bobs, and I just couldn't. I'm thinking to myself, I feel like I've done loads of little like reward openings videos since we last spoke. I had a good week on basketball. I had a decent win there. Got a Jimmy Butler limited, which is really useful for my collection. Haven't really put any funds into basketball for a while, so to get a few wins every now and then feels good on the basketball. And yeah, had kind of like opposite end of the spectrum in terms of the end product on football. I had a pretty dismal week, maybe last week, and then this week my rewards I was really happy with, even though I thought my rewards last week were going to be really good because I had like some tier 2s, some quite high tier 2s. And this week I had a couple of tier 3s, a tier 3 super, a tier 3 rare and a tier 2 rare. And I managed to hit some cards. One of them was in my watch list. Another one was a rare card of which I tried to pick up a super rare of that player recently. So I was super happy with my wins this week. Did you get any end product, Quinny? That was my next question.
I got double cap 240 this weekend, so I got my $150, which I was quite happy about opening. It's the first time I've done that, and like the second time of asking, so that was fun. And the rare one, I got the last tier 2. No, the last tier 3. I was like 138 for something. I was like right at the end of a tier. It may have been the whole prize pool actually. And yeah, it was a tier, I'm sure it was a tier 3. I got a Kenny McLean who plays for Norwich, Scotland International as well. And like for the rare, he's like 50 quid or something. I'm not like jumping for joy on value or anything, but like for profile for a bottom of the pool kind of tier 3, like yourself, like I was quite chuffed. I was like, cool, I'll take that.
Absolutely take that. Yeah. So I think one of my tier 3s was, let me get the player's actual name up. He's like one of those second division Europe players, but he was one of the better ones who, when they first opened the region, I was looking at pieces that I might sort of be able to pick up that next to what I already had that was going to be moved into that region, I could make up a decent team. So it's Keleki Enoakali, who plays in La Liga 2. He plays for Ponferradina. I remember looking at him because his AA game was pretty strong, and having a little look at his recent averages, it's still pretty strong. And his card's only worth like 60 quid, but as we will get into, card prices being down, you know, that I think that offer is quite a good price for a card that scores the way he does. Whether or not people feel that those sort of like consistent scorers are going to have the value that they used to have, because now you're almost wanting, if you're looking to scrape the E for it, let's say in 240, you almost want those players who have like the average week but have a decisive in them, or score 10 points more with a clean sheet or something at home, and maybe he's not one of those players, which would suggest why his price has dropped a little bit. But I was quite happy with that as a tier 3 win. I got a Jonathan Panzo, defender at Coventry. He puts up some great scores. U23, he's got a few years of utility. And I got a super rare Million Manhoef who plays for Vitesse. And this was an interesting one because his L5 is massive. He's got an L5 of 55. He's put up a 90, a 63, and a 74 in his last 3 games. But his scores are very, he can bang a 20 and then bang a 70. So if you want to take that risk on a player like that, he might be the one for those cap modes. But, whether or not I keep him, I'm not sure. I've got him listed at the moment for like 3 times his recent rare sales. I'm getting a lot of offers for him, but way below half what I'm asking for. So I think they're going off of his last sale, which was back in November, when he was barely in the side. So now he's in the side. For me, his value should be higher. And I'm not too worried about holding on to him as well. I think a U23 defender gives me some options. And for that cap mode, definitely, if and when I get some super rare goalkeepers sort of playing a little bit more, still waiting to hit that threshold on the super rare division. So did you say you hit that one, the super rare one?
Yeah. Well, I've kind of found I hit the rare the week before, but last week I hit the rare and the super rare, and over those 3 kind of ones hitting, and I think this will be the same for limiteds as well, is what I've found is you need 2 guys to break 60. If you get all 5 to start, 2 get 60 plus, you'll probably be kind of A-okay, And like we've seen, like the prize pool isn't really that beyond your reach. If you have a team that you think is going to hit that criteria, then that third decisive, or someone having a huge AA on top of their decisive, that's all you really need to then be sniffing, and from what I've seen so far, to be sniffing in amongst the cards. But I was looking at like Jonathan Panzo. I thought was a great reward when he showed me that. I was just looking because I thought this guy was like a Man City kid, and that's why I liked him. But what it is he was actually under 17 World Cup winner with England, and I think that squad had I've not pulled it up. I think that squad had a lot of good guys in it, like Foden, Morgan Gibbs White, and a few other guys that I've kind of followed since. So that Panzo's got good stock, he's had a few cards on Sorare before. So definitely think that quality of those rewards, if you are in those cap divisions, if you get to the bottom of the pool, like they did say in their kind of press release or whatever, that they want that cap 270 to be the primo. That's where you want to be fighting your best cards with, and then that kind of trickles in, I think, to the lower tiers. It feels like we've had a relatively good experience with lower tier wins, So I think to answer you, I think I hit the cap, and I think that's the kind of the finding I've had to this point is 2 guys to break 60, all 5 start, and you're probably there.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm yet to hit that super rare cap mode threshold, but it's definitely appealing, because if you win, like I said, I won a tier 3 super rare last week, which I think I sold for about $180, which it's quite hard to win in. This was coming out of the U23 division as well, which all the U23 divisions score wise have gone massively up. I don't know if you've noticed this if you play it.
It was a big weekend, wasn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely brutal in there to try and win a card at the moment. I was talking to a friend of mine, I think U23 Rare Pro on the weekend. To get the bottom tier 2 card in the pool, you needed 446 points. Wow, which would have put you 6th, I think, on All-Star Rare Pro. So it's massive. It really making me look at my gallery for this weekend, because I always look at the U23 divisions as my go-to. But if I did move some of the better cards out of U23 into say All-Star or even one of the cap modes maybe, then, or in Challenger as well, I've got some good cards that can compete there, I think, on the right weekend. And I think after these last couple of weekends, scraping myself just about into the tier 2, tier 3s, if I'm lucky, with a massive score, that if I'd have just put it in All-Star, would be looking at probably a tier 1, possibly even better. So yeah, a lot of thinking to be done this week. I know Harry. I think
a big part of that, Stish, but is see the guys that did go off in a big way, like Carlson, Timber, I think the whole AZ team went off.
Yes.
A lot of those guys are quite exclusively played in U23, if you know what I mean. So I think you're quite right that if you have it's that kind of struggle of knowing, is your guy going to be the guy that goes off, you know, because it's like every time Carlson hits 100, you know, that's like 80 managers that have got a 100 captain forward, maybe less or more or whatever. And then Timber drops 100. So then out of that 80, 50 of them are on 200 off of two players, you know. And then if they've got Carlson and Timber, what else have they got around it? It's not going to be duds, you know. So I think we've seen that before with U23s, and we've seen it before with Champion Euro when Bayern rattle somebody 7-0 and there's a couple of hundreds in the Bayern defence and whatever. So I think it's more kind of knowing the fixtures and picking your fight for knowing, like, well, Ajax and the Dutch league is all top V bottoms or, you know, whatever, and just swerving it.
I think you're right. I think that AZ, right off the bat, because it was one of the early fixtures in the weekend, so seeing like the sort of top places already after like 1 or 2 games, there were people in the podium places that already had like 370 points, and you're like, they've still got 2 to play. Like, they've just lumped in a couple of AZ super rares and like a Carlson captain. And like you said, I think 2 or 3 of their players hit 100 scores. And yeah, a lot of those are U23. I played in U23 randomly as well. You know, like Minyans, who we've mentioned on the podcast before, has moved and has picked up where he left off, really. Whereas a lot of people, I think, were expecting maybe a little drop off in score, but it's gone straight in, and he's just carrying on as he was. So a lot of I think people in my boat, maybe. I think I had some good scorers in there. I had, like, you know, the Veermans, people like that, who maybe don't have quite as many cards on the platform, not in super rare anyway, but there's definitely a lot of those AZ stack managers in U23, and yeah, they don't hit that often the way they did on the weekend, but when they do, you can pretty much count yourself out of the cards almost straight away. And I think, you know, the fact that Porto didn't keep a clean sheet, there wasn't too many goalkeeper clean sheets in the U23, so if you did have that this week, you might have got in the cards, but without it, you didn't have a great chance. I think that's something else as well, like keeping an eye on what goalkeepers have games this week and stuff like that. Also had in the midweek, Muric last night. This was an interesting one. It's going to be one to watch. Muric made an error that led to a goal in the first half for Burnley last night, and he went off at half time, got taken off at half time with a score of 10. Be interesting to see if Muric is back in the starting lineup this weekend, because I don't think I've seen many goalkeepers taken off at half time without an injury. So I'll be keeping a close eye on Burnley's sort of press conferences. I haven't seen if anything was said after the game. I haven't had a chance to look this morning, but that could have implications on U23 scores and entries as well for people who maybe only have a Muric. Someone in the chat, Mouldy, saying that Company said he was sick, which would explain a few of the passes I see him make. When I had a little look, I was keeping more of an eye on the PSG game. That was quite an interesting game, but I did flick.
It was ferocious, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the second half. What did you make of that game, PSG Bayern? What do you think we can expect to see from the second leg?
I think, well, I don't know. It feels like, I don't know. My takeaway from the game was it just felt like Gaultier is a wee bit out of his depth. You know, like PSG versus Bayern, you don't set up PSG to be like, right, we're going to have to negotiate past Bayern. PSG should be going into that tie saying, we're PSG, deal with us. Yeah. And it felt like that happened second half, much more than first half, you know. And I would probably put that down to the manager rather than maybe the players. I know he made some changes and subs were at different times and whatever. But unlucky with the goal as well. Been ruled offside for Nuno Mendes. He was on a canter last night. He was like a racehorse going up and down that line.
He was great. And I think, Mbappe coming on made a big change, probably for Mendes as well, knowing that he's got runners up there with him who can keep up with him. Like you said, Mendes is super quick, and him and Mbappe caused all kinds of problems. I think Bayern were crumbling that last sort of 10 minutes. They were making so many mistakes at the back, really poor passes out from the back, putting themselves under pressure constantly. And if PSG come at them like they did in that last sort of 20 minutes, I think, you know, we could see an early PSG goal. And if an early goal goes in, the tie's wide open again, isn't it? So that'd be
I
a
think the
really,
best thing for the neutral is it was a low scoring game, because
yeah,
leg 2, it's a cup final now. Like there's only one goal in it really, so it shouldn't dictate any tempo early in the match. If it was like 2 or 3, maybe Bayern think, right, we'll just get the first half like killed, and then there's only 45 minutes left. But with it being at 1-0 on the tie, like it's probably the best thing for all of us watching the second leg.
I agree. I'm actually going to Paris to watch PSG versus Lille this weekend.
That's this weekend, brilliant.
Yeah. So I'm probably not going to see the lineup that I was hoping to see, but fingers crossed we'll see a good game.
Well,
Still.
Leo's a big tie. Probably won't
Yeah.
rotate that much, man. Like from the big hitters, if they're fit, because they need points, man. They need to get form.
They do need that. So yeah, I'm excited for that weekend. A little bit of live football in the veins, inject it.
Sorare on tour, loving it.
Sorare on tour. That's it. I've got to play football on Saturday in Paris as well, which I'm really worried about because I haven't done any training. I haven't played any football in ages. And anyone who knows me knows I struggle after, a long time of not doing any exercise. So as soon as we're finished today, I'm going for a run. I need to get I need my lungs active, ready for a bit of a cardio.
Get the dust out them.
That's it. I literally need to just it will be like a cloud as well. It'll be like a toxic cloud over Croydon. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I just hopefully I'm still alive on Sunday to watch the game. But yeah, it was a good fixture, like you said. I think that the second leg's going to be a mouth-watering tie. We got more big fixtures this evening as we record on a Wednesday. The big one, obviously, is not even the Champions League for me. It's Man City versus Arsenal tonight at the same time as a lot of Champions League fixtures take place. That is a massive tie. What do you expect to happen, Man City v Arsenal?
I don't really have any expectations going into it. I've not actually seen too much of City this year. I've actually seen way more Arsenal, It'll be good to watch it. I've actually, talked about Sorare on tour. I'm going to Celtic Aberdeen at the weekend.
Nice.
With a few of the legends in the community, and a few of the guys are going to be coming here tonight. We won't be. I don't think we'll manage a stream or anything, but me, the guys from Sorare Odyssey, FPL General, and I don't know if anyone else is going to come, but across the 3 tellies, we're going to get both the Champions League games on and Man City Arsenal. So hopefully it should be a good one. I'm not really going into it with any expectations. My whole focus has really been on like all this stuff in the market over the last couple of days. I've got one little team out, for the midweek, but I've got Tony up front. Tony's not with us today. He will be in pre-match prep as we speak, but I've not really paid much mind to City Arsenal. I've been listening to some of the build up on the radio and whatever, but what about yourself? Are you expecting it to be a classic, or do you think this is a 0-0 midweek king?
Do you know what? As a United fan, I think seeing the way the results have gone the last few weeks, Arsenal have dropped points, City have looked vulnerable at times, but managed to get the results they needed. That I just now, it's given me hope that we might see one of those classic Arsenal bottle jobs, and they might just lose their grip on the league if they drop points again tonight. But I don't really want City to win either, so I would take a draw now. A few weeks ago, I wouldn't have bothered. I'd have just been like, do you know what? We ain't getting anywhere near it. But we've been given hope. We've had some good results the last few weeks, and results have gone our way elsewhere. And I think if this is a draw and we continue to pick up wins, we might actually fight our way back into a title challenge with a few weird results going on elsewhere. We still need City and Arsenal to drop points again. And I think Arsenal have got Chelsea soon as well, so there's opportunities there. We're gonna find some tough fixtures to come up against as well, but Barcelona is something to look forward to. United Barcelona, really excited for that, and I'm very optimistic about it as well. I think when the draw came out, a lot of United fans were being really down about it. At the time, I didn't really fancy Barcelona, but they've picked up some decent form of late, and I think we're 2 teams that really want to win this tournament now, and it should be. I'm hoping for a classic, and I do fancy us over 2 legs. I think we're riding high at the minute. Ten Hag seems to have figured out his starting 11. We seem to have a proper starting 11 now. It's going to be good. I'm excited for it. There's a lot of good football on this week. There's a lot to be excited about, for sure.
I've been looking at the weekend for about a week already, thanks to the lineup builder on Sorare Data. It's a big one for sure, man.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm well looking forward to it. Because some good fixtures. Obviously, you'll be PSG Lille should be a good one for you guys to go and watch. But I'm hoping Celtic Aberdeen we'll be getting there. It's a 3:00 kickoff, open bar at Celtic Park. Hopefully, get right on it. And if it's a if it's a big result, it should be a cracker, man.
I need to get up there for one of these open bar sessions instead of all this playing football in it. Paris, I think I'd like fare a lot better at the open bar.
Yeah, I would definitely take an open bar at Parkhead, especially if you've got the full Celtic attack, lined up and ready to go.
Maybe the next Celtic Rangers, I got to get up, have a look at the fixture list and figure out when the next big one is. Come up for it, or come and see. Tony played there last week, didn't he? Did he play the Celtic in the week? And
did he come off the bench? I can't remember. But
he did,
it's been a wee bit since he's been there. Actually, yeah.
He came in off the bench. He got a good reception from the fans and that. But maybe we'll try and get together for one game that he's playing up there again. Go and see him.
That'd be good.
Give him a reception. Sure. Jeering from the sidelines. Get back on then, product, Tony.
Ran out of subs.
Anyway, onwards and upwards. You did mention that you've been in and about the market, and I think the big talking point at the minute, isn't it, is people talking about the price of cards going down. Some people are pulling out their collections off the platform for various different reasons. Some of them saying just because it's time to sell. They've got other places for their money to go, and others saying they don't believe in the platform anymore. And then, as always with the sort of Sorare community, everyone's ploughing in with an opinion. And here we are. We haven't really spoken about this, not together at least. I know you've been in and out of chats on it. But what's your current take on everything? Where do you sit? How do you feel about all of this kind of drama that's going on at the minute?
Well, it's not fun to see. Obviously, people. I think the card swaps thing is really the fuse here. That's like the powder keg, as it were, because we've seen auction velocities go up before. We've seen everything that's been kind of going on, that anyone that's been playing Sorare long enough to kick up a fuss about it will be aware of, if you know what I mean. If you're going on to Sorare data and you're looking at all these charts and other, you'll probably number one understand this stuff pretty well, and number two, maybe even seen it before on the platform, like Sorare signing a new license and dumping the whole license on so people can get cards and new game modes, how they try and make them achievable to onboard. And there's two sides to the coin, right? Obviously you never want to hear about anyone in any situation spend money on something and it's worth less or whatever, right? And on Sorare, you hate to hear about people that have opened their account, built a fun club, and then they realize, oh crap, it's now £200 less. I could either have built the same thing and had kept some money in my pocket, or I could have got better or more for my money or whatever. That's always disappointing. But the reverse of that is that, if you were opening your account today, you'd probably be rubbing your hands together and oh wow, I can get a guy like this for 20 quid. And that Kenny McLean rare is 50 quid. You know what I mean? When was the last, and again, I know he's a D2 card, he's over 30, whatever, right? But rares that can take some set pieces and break a 60 or a 70 once in a while haven't been around 50 quid for a while, so even for getting limiteds, if you were opening this game and you were a wee bit more, I'm going to get in amongst this, I know more than that prick Quinny, and I know more about blah 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 blah, and you fancied your chances, then you're not just restricted to, I can only afford limiteds, because I know I'm going right off the deep end now a little bit, right? But for example, I've seen the prices of some supers and uniques going, that if you were opening your account today and you did have money to play this game or whatever, you no other time before would have the ability to go and fire a roster together quite quickly, Now, that being said, one of the things I've seen from Betman, which was one of the big accounts that listed a bunch of stuff in the last week, was he was saying he hadn't seen or noticed any huge whales or anything come into the platform, into the unique kind of sphere for 6 months or something. So even though that opportunity is there, in his opinion, it's not really been taken on. But so I'm always quite a balance of view kind of thing, right? If everyone's complaining prices are going down, that's obviously bad for the stuff you hold. Me personally, I've always said on this, I only concern myself. The only thing I'm concerned with now is price of Josko Guardiola, because I was planning to on him. That's the only price I care about. Out of all the cards I've got, I don't care what any of them are listed at or who somebody sold them for yesterday, because I've been trying to list Guardiola. I've been trying to sell him since he broke into like being about an ETH within the last month or two, kind of World Cup time. And ever since then, he's just kind of came down. He's down at 0.3.
What?
Would you believe? Yeah, for a
I mean,
rare
I'm
point.
looking to sell mine, but that is a bargain. If you need to
I can't sell them at that price. It makes no sense for me now, But that's the only price I care about. I don't care about the price of, my limiteds or this or that, because that's the only one I'm actually trying to trade or sell or whatever, So like the rest of the ones that I've had there, like the Tony Watt super rare or like the Callum McGregor unique card, whatever. Like, I bought a Key Sung Young super rare for 1.6 ETH, which was like $3,000 or something at the time, maybe even more. And that thing has done nothing but drill into the earth.
I've got ever since I got it. Those, I've definitely got a lot of them as well. I've totally terrible buy. It feels
you get used to it, don't you? You understand. Well, I bought that thing knowing I'm keeping this, and that's a really extreme example. But again, if you're picking up unlimited for 50 quid, thinking I'm going to play with this for 2 or 3 seasons, well, if someone else buys that limited today for 30 quid, like it's only a kick in the stones because you could have saved a few quid or bought 2 of them. That's the only problem here.
Absolutely. I think so. 2 things that I'll pick from what you just said as well was Joe Bettman's point of there not being any whales coming in is an interesting one, because that was something that I missed. But my thoughts on that are I would assume that about 90% of the whales on our platform are crypto rich. They're not, they're not coming in with 50 grand of like cash in their house, like that, or equity that they've released from their mortgage or something like that to play this game. I think people that have come in with loads of money have come in having made shitloads of money on crypto or NFTs during the boom and decided to move into this as almost like a yielding exercise, like earn more, win more, trade, blah, blah, blah. So some of those people leaving the platform I can kind of understand is almost like this platform has held its own throughout the worst of the NFT kind of like storm that has happened over the last year or two. Literally every NFT product out there is down 80, 90% pretty much. Apart from Sorare, which until now hasn't really seen that much of a dip because it's a little bit more pegged to the fiat prices than NFTs are. But also the utility is proven. You can win, you can earn, you can trade. There's lots of different ways and things that affect the prices of a Sorare NFT versus a Bored Ape or something like that, where it's just supply and demand and the supply is finished. The problem with Sorare is obviously the supply is continually increasing. It does rely on more new users to come in. And one of the key points, I think, so that's why personally I don't think many big whales have come in, is because I don't think whales are looking at anything NFT at the moment. They are waiting for a bear market. And I think that if the crypto space took an upturn, that's when you'd start to see a few whales enter or re-enter. Some of the people who sold up would be back in buying in now. Prices are going to be crazy in 6 months. And I don't feel like the sentiment for crypto for the next 6 months is there. Like there's some glimmers of hope, but I don't think that, major crypto holders are looking at putting big money back into crypto just yet. And I think once that is the case, we'll see whales enter the game who've maybe been watching from the sidelines or figuring out how to play it. But in terms of the supply, oversupply being an issue, I've heard a lot of people talking on that. And Sorare Josh in the chat says as well, so oversupply is an issue. Last week, they auctioned 3 Gvardiol rares. Previous to that, it was 3 auctions in 1 month. So when you bear that in mind on a lot of the sort of top cards like a Gvardiol, who is a tradable asset to a lot of people on the platform, if you don't have to wait long for an auction, 90% of the time the auction goes for less than the floor price, doesn't it? Like
totally.
So if you do 3 of those in a week, you're going to bring the floor price down nearly with every sale, almost with every sale, unless he puts up 100 score or he lands in one of those freak game weeks where he's the only U23 defender that you can use or something like that, right? But with the supply growing, definitely there's been some really good points made that one thing that Sorare has as a massive problem is those auctions are the only way they bring money in, and they've obviously spent all this money getting the Prem. They need to start making some money back. At the moment, on the football side of things, selling auctions is the only way they make money. So
See that. See, that's where I detach from this. 'Cause I don't think it's money related at all. I think it is like we've seen before. I can't remember the exact example, but I think this is just like we expect there to be lots of people coming, and we want people to get the cards they want for as cheap as possible when they're coming on and they're enjoying the game and whatever. Which, you know, is to the detriment of me, to the Guardiola, and to anyone else who was trying to sell any cards that got free auctions in a week, because, like you said, Stish, 100% is going to hamstring the price, because like auctions tell you the true price really of like who's out there with money in their pocket to buy something, you know, and the market is not mature enough to handle, for some of these big cards, free auctions in a week. You know, they now maybe they have underestimated or overestimated, whatever the way around it would be, the appetite in the market for a lot of this stuff, or and that's why, because I suspect if we looked at those free Guardiols, I'd be surprised if at least 2 out of the 3 of them weren't trader accounts that were just left unopposed on a bid. You know, it's not like people are like, oh, cool, there's another Guardiola, let me go and get him. It's just like trader accounts are snapping them up and whatever, because no one's out there fighting for it. So maybe they've misread the market maturity in that sense. But if it is to, I say, help people come in and play the game, like, it's just it's a tough pill to swallow, you know, overall, if you're trying to list anything now. But ultimately, like, one of the first things we said, Stish, when we come on this call is like, or the first thing I said to you was, have you done any shopping? Because most people I'm speaking to privately are quite like, oh, have you seen the price? Oh, by the way, I could get oh, by the way, somebody's got a, you know. And I don't hear anyone that's been playing this game for a significant amount of time saying anything other than that, if you know what I mean. So as soon as like enough of the market moves that way, then a lot of this, like, you know, turmoil that we're in gets arrested for some of the market, not all of it, of course, you know. And then I think at that point, people kind of then take a wee bit of the, you know, the turn off the alarm bells and go, right, okay, what is actually going on here? Right, okay, well, I've tried to sell this goalkeeper. He's now selling for less, or it's Guardiola or whoever it is. And you just need to move on with it. The striker you've played, the striker you bought still works, and he's basically the same price. Because like the Guardiola one is a great example, because it is such a sharp decrease, and the auctions are all there for it. But like, there's a few guys out there that like maybe dropped in 10% or something. But you're talking about a 40 quid card being 35 quid. Like, you're really like, what does that mean to anyone? Very little, you know. It is more those big assets, the big power ones. Because I'm even seeing like Jotas around in ETH now, and I'm only thinking about cards that I see on my own Sorare data. So like, it's mainly those ones. And again, if you have those cards, you'll know already kind of how this cycle goes. You know, when they're expecting lots of new users, they want to give them lots of cards. And the Premier League was also a massive onboarding new license, which they also try and get as many of the cards out for. Some of the complaints, some of the biggest complaints, and some of the biggest storms that Sorare have had to deal with, particularly if we're talking about, you know, big accounts or whales or whatever, is that there is such a stranglehold on the availability of uniques and super rares on auction. You know, they only come out when they get good Ls, the L5s and 15s or whatever. So like, there is always going to be this, you can't make everyone happy situation, because you do need enough cards out there for like anyone coming in. But yeah, I think that's probably the best way of saying it, is like, they are forever walking this line when it comes to the market dynamics of, you won't keep everyone happy. So it's about, what battle do we need to win the now? Well, there's 50,000 new people or 20,000 new people or whatever. They need limited cards. They're going to need some rares. Maybe they want some uniques as well, you know, whatever. Get them out there in the first week or two, and then we'll take pause for the cause and go from there. I don't know. That's the most important battle today. It's not the gallery values, but then maybe the most important battle now is gallery values, and then maybe they go, right, go back to auction cycles we had 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, or whatever the plan is.
There's a chance as well that, like you said earlier, you mentioned about how, you know, they wanted to make it sort of affordable for new users to come in and play, and like give the game modes that they can play where you don't necessarily need to spend that much money. So there is those game modes where you don't need a goalkeeper, or, you know, there's plenty of ways to get involved now with, you know, you could probably only spend, you could probably spend less than 15 quid now and get a 4-player team together that you can enter in.
1,000,000%, mate.
That kind of thing, right? So they've fixed that issue. And maybe, I mean, this is some tinfoil hat shit, but maybe they needed the prices to come down. So they oversupply the market, kind of maybe like underestimating the backlash they might see from existing managers who see their prices of their cards come down. But they've ultimately, with the supply and with everything else that's going on for whatever reason, crypto supply, the World Cup. There could be any matter of things. The the cost of living crisis. Like, you could name loads of things that may have some kind of impact at the moment. But
For sure.
maybe they underestimated how much people would get annoyed when they watch their card values go down, because it always is hard to look at it and see. Like you said, no one likes to see the value of their cards go down. But if this does mean now you can talk to your cousin or your neighbor and be like, and they ask you, oh, isn't it expensive to get in? You absolutely can, with your chest, say it's actually not expensive. You can get started for like pennies now, really, and play for years. Like, less than, you'll spend less on this than you would on accumulators for the next month. And as Bumcrack in the chat said, they're the kind of people they need to get on board, right? The people who maybe put a weekend acca on, or have a flutter here and there on a game. It's like, well, why, instead of doing that, why don't you pick up a 50 quid team that you can play with for the next year or two? So maybe this was done on purpose to like bring prices down. If they knew, I don't know if they knew this would happen or not, but I guess that's one way to look at it. But another point that was made in the chat, which I'm sure we spoke about on the podcast as well, that I think I always saw the Premier League launch was going to be similar to what we saw with the NBA, and separate from the football, because the Premier League is such a big product that bringing that on board will be exactly like we saw with the NBA. The number ones and the ones of 1,000 and the ones of whatever went for like 100, 200 quid. And then within the next 3 days, their number 6 and number 7 was like 50 quid, 60 quid. And that's what we're seeing with the Premier League. I think those first initial number ones went for quite big money, as people expected. And now you can pick those same players up for less than 50% of what they were going for maybe a week ago. That is like the number ones for the collectors and the people that care about that. And I think that's been a lot more closely correlated to the NBA launch in that sense. But yeah, I guess that's just one of the issues. But yeah, in terms of like the market, it's a horrible time to sell. I think people who are selling now maybe are selling into a bit of a panic, or have given up hope. Maybe I think like the talk of these swaps with some of the big whale accounts where they won, I think it was JR Duke won a Van der Voort and had it swapped for, was it Saka?
Saka, yeah.
I mean, that there's no explanation for that. I don't really see how. And I
don't get it.
I can understand why you might get a card swap if your player has just been like sidelined for like 6 months with an ACL or something like that. And if that was Van der Voort, then you might be like, some people might get a Van der Voort in that situation and think 6 months he's going to be still a U23 goalkeeper, possibly at Leipzig, and you just sit tight. A Van der Voort is an absolutely amazing reward, even if he is injured. It's like the weirdest one that you could ever swap. So things like this might have been going on regularly that we just not really noticed. But
no, you would just because all the cards that they don't want go to the Sorare account. So if you type in Sorare in the search engine, you'll see a Sorare account with a green tick on it.
Yeah,
and if you look at that, that's I think that's all the rewards that get swapped out are erroneous or some description or whatever. They've got some cards I've taken back that have got dodgy pictures and stuff like that on them, or they've been red X and blue X rewards, which is cool.
I had one swapped in the past without noticing it. I think it was a reward that had been given to me, and then by the time I got to my rewards, it showed that like I had transferred something to Sorare, like in my sort of like transaction history or whatever it was on Sorare data, and I had to look at it, and I was like, it confused me. But I noticed that they given me a card for whatever reason shouldn't have been given to me, and then they gave me another one instead. But I didn't ask for a swap. It just it happened before I saw it. So I only saw it because it was in transactions. And maybe there might be people listening to this that if they looked at their Sorare data, they might realize that that's happened to one of theirs before. But I think it's something that they have to have in place, because they will miss injuries and stuff. We have this so often, right, where the prize pool doesn't have the right cards in it, or someone's in it that shouldn't be. So they need to be able to do this. But I think seeing it done with that, and I think it was when Moon was another one. He was on social media, and I can't remember what card it was, but he was moaning that like this should
Florentino Luis.
That's right, yeah. And he got that swapped as well. And it was like, I think the fact that it was the big accounts is obviously going to flag and anger the community as well, because they'll be like, how come they get to do it and we don't? And it sets a really awkward and difficult precedent for Sorare to handle. So it'll be interesting to see if there are any communications about it. But I just think the timing of that, on top of all of the kind of like the doubt that's been set in maybe by the drop in prices and a few of these big accounts, it's just like we're in a storm at the moment of like negative energy, I guess. And I was talking off air on the subject of rewards. Last week, I thought my rewards were a bit poor, and I wasn't the only person who thought that.
Yeah.
They weren't poor enough for me to say they need to be swapped, but they were poor enough that I was like, yeah, I was expecting better than that. Not I wasn't expecting like anything incredible, but some of them were like pretty poor tier 2s. And I normally think of a tier 2 as like something to get reasonably excited about. Don't ever expect it to be like a home run, but something useful. And in this case, I got like nothing that was of much use to me at all. And I didn't think it would be of use to anyone unless it was like a player they wanted to collect or something like that, right? And this week, I won similar amount of rewards, but in lower tiers, like a couple of tier 3s and a tier 2. And I think across those 3 rewards that we discussed at the beginning, much better than last week. And I also saw Harry Trades finished, I think, 3rd in U23 Rare Pro or Rare, and he got Pedri, which was about 7th in the pool. So I haven't checked, but I imagine 1st and 2nd place might have been like a Haaland, might have been a Mbappe, could have been something really good. So I feel like they're listening, right? I feel like Sorare must be seeing the sentiment. The sentiment needs to shift. Therefore, rewards need to improve. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few big wins this weekend, maybe even in the midweek. I'm pretty sure Pedri for 3rd place is a massive win. I think
that's what we got on the podium, Stishy boy. Getting time for them to make up to us.
I agree. It's overdue. I think I've been unlucky the last couple of times. I definitely should have got on it and then had players dropped that just needed to start a game to hit a podium. But yeah, I'm due one. I definitely feel like it's coming. I just need the results to fall my way. But the glaring situation of my need for goalkeepers is still staring me in the face, and I think I'm hoping I don't want to risk any more money on buying a goalkeeper who might not come in just to try and save a bit of ETH at the moment. So I'm going to wait until maybe the first couple of games in Japan and Asia have been played, and then look at who starts those games. And then rather than take a punt on someone now, I would rather just spend a bit more money in a couple of weeks and buy someone that I know I'm going to get to use. Rico Man 17 said 1st and 2nd place got Bellingham and Donnarumma. So that is a big week in U23 Rare Pro.
A non-Premier League podium, but still pretty healthy. That's decent to see.
Yeah.
No one complained, I don't think. Did anyone complain and get a Premier League swap? Swap for Bellingham for a Foden? Wouldn't that be something?
I don't think there's much on the platform I'd swap for a Donnarumma or a Bellingham.
Yeah,
I think they're great cards. And Pedri for that matter. I don't think...
Pedri's easy, man.
Pedri would be a nice win, definitely. Congrats to Harry, who was here last week. He had a big weekend. In terms
got that end product after hanging out with us. And I seen Gator guy was on, he's hit like 4 podiums in a row after PSU fans gave him a bit of a grabbed him around the collar and got him a rebuild or something. So I think we've got some good form with the guests. We're not maybe contributing to any of it, but maybe we are the good luck charm,
Maybe the fact we haven't got anyone on means it's our turn. Maybe this is a good omen for us.
We've done it. We've kept all the luck for ourselves this week, and everyone listening in the live chat on Twitch.
You might be our last ever guest. If we both hit the podium this weekend, it'd be like...
Super subs are off.
Yeah. Sorry, Tony, you're off, mate. We've binned you off, mate. But Tony's been getting some end products as well, hasn't he? To talk about a bit of end product, Tony's hit a couple of podiums. He's hit some tier 0s in the last few weeks as well.
Yeah, Tony's been killing it with the what was it, the Belgium Galatasaray, or what was it?
He's got Belgian Galatasaray, hasn't he? If I remember right.
Yeah, I can't remember. He came up with some funny names for the hybrid stacks they had, and it was like Bruges and Benfica, and there's a Turkish one as well. I can't remember it.
Yeah,
he's been doing really good, man. I seen I read a snippet of an interview from Tony today on can't remember the football websites on Twitter. He was talking about how he moved to St Mirren. Obviously, it's not like a money motivated thing. He just wants to get back playing and whatever. And I was really excited to see. I've not really spoke to him since he's made the move, but he's at. If anyone doesn't know this, the manager at St Mirren is the manager he had at Motherwell when he got to a top goal scorer in the league by Christmas and made the Dundee United transfer. So he's in. I've got him in my midweek. He's on 55% on Play Sharper. So let's hope Tony does get some end product midweek on the pitch, and then he'll be good at the weekend against Ross County, bottom of the table. So that could be a good week for Tony Boy.
I want to get him on the podcast just so we can ask him about whether or not his SO5 utility was have any kind of factor in where he moved, because I know he was like linked. He was linked to Salford and places like that, wasn't he? And it was like, I just wonder if like his SO5 utility was in the back of his head, being able to play in a league that was covered, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure it was. You know, like I feel like Tony's brain ticks so rare in the background all the time. So. I
was looking in that interview to see him maybe use the word utility or something, you know, or, you know, like I'm looking forward to my utility at St Mirren, you know, or something.
Be looking for those runs into the box. Those are the classic ones. Carrying the ball into the edge of the 18-yard box twice. Rolling the ball in and out.
Hope he kills it tonight. A hat-trick would be fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Good luck
on song.
Good luck.
For sure.
So... moving on from, we've kind of like discussed the drama, we've discussed rewards. What are you looking forward to this weekend, Quinny? Have you got any lineups set up that have you particularly interested or excited?
Well, I'll give you a wee bit of an alternate strategy I'm probably going to be going with this week, especially to get your opinion on it, right? I think I teased it a wee bit last week. I say tease as if anyone cares, but like I think we were kind of spoke about this earlier in the pod, right? But I think for my gallery, playing in the pro divisions is probably not optimal this game week, and I'm gonna go into this game week just forgetting about Challenger Pro, All Star Pro. I know that sounds sacrilegious for me, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to play Reds and Blues together this game week, and I'm just going to try and do that kind of duality, as it were, because I'm quite light on. So I've got 3 rare keepers and 3 super rare keepers. And yeah, so it's kind of like if I play one of the rare keepers in old D3, as it were, I don't think I've got the right combination of rares and super rares to make that worthwhile. But I think I've got great combos of all rare and all super. And again, some people might be experiencing this kind of thing with limiteds and rares, or you know, any scarcity dynamic that you might be running with. So I'm thinking about ditching all the hybrid ones and just go all red and all blue.
I like that. I've actually been doing that myself, funny enough, in a similar boat that I felt like when I split up all my blues and put them in with some of the rares, maybe like the forward would let me down or something like that. And I was better off I felt like I was better off at least just putting them into D2. So especially in U23, the last couple of weeks, I've done exactly that. I've used my U23 keeper in super rare. And then I've put my best supers into that altogether with a unique, and then I've put my next strongest team in rare, and then if there is another lineup, then that goes into pro almost as a like hit and hope rather than expecting it to bang. But yeah, on the weekend game weeks where I've got as many options as possible open, that's exactly what I've been doing, because I think that pro is really hard to win in, and like I said, 464 points to get into the cards in U23 this weekend is insane. So I think I'm going to be doing the same. And I think if I do enter pro, it might be All-Star, or it probably won't be in the regions. I don't know if I have the pieces. And also I don't think I've got the minerals to chuck in like a really strong team into like Asia at the moment. I want to see those starting lineups for the first couple of games before I look at that as I think that it's really hard to, and you know, like I subscribe to a lot of the Asia like specialists on Sorare Twitter. I pay for the patrons and stuff like that, and even they, you know, get it wrong quite a lot of the time. At least with the cards that I need help with, all you can do is really like follow these clubs on Instagram and watch as much of the training sessions and any of the friendlies that you can get hold of. Lineups for those things are really important, but yeah, I think I've got one player in the Frontale versus Frontale are playing Yokohama F Marinos on Friday morning, and I was
Nice.
wondering, do I risk Eduardo in that, because he's such a great scorer? But last season he was just being rotated for fun, and it was like, how you rotate your best centre back, not just yours, but one of the best centre backs in the entire league is sitting on the bench for Yokohama Marinos like last season. And if a player like that is a risk, then yeah, it just meant that like a lot of my Asian selections, barring my career, I feel like my players that play at Seoul were like, you could kind of figure out what their starting 11 was going to be. But most other teams, it was really like hit and miss with my selections. And I don't want another thing as well, as anyone who plays Asia will back me on, is Asia's most of the games, like you'll wake up on like Saturday morning or Wednesday morning or whenever it is, and they've already played or they're playing. And if they've ruined like one of your all-star teams or something, your weekend's done. It ruined it. So but you don't worry so much if they're all in the same team together and 2 or 3 of them have hit a DMP in the same lineup. That's like, oh, thank God, just one team KO'd for the weekend. At least I can enjoy the rest of my teams. But Asia has that capability of ruining your game week before hardly anything's even kicked off. A DMP in the morning of the Saturday can ruin your weekend. And yeah, it makes me scared. I'm excited and scared for Asia opening, I think, with that in mind.
Yeah. I've
Really
definitely done
excited
that.
with Tani. I think Tani at Gamba, seeing if there's been a lot of talk that he is likely to be benched for most of the season and might be waiting for an opportunity. No one knows for sure. You know, they've got new manager there, all sorts of things going on. But I'll definitely be keeping a keen eye on that. But I don't think I'll be putting him in any lineups. I think I'm going to be sitting out with a lot of my Asia cards for a week or two, maybe using them in some of the sort of 220 caps, that kind of thing. I've got Jun Nishikawa as well, is another player who I really like, but I've been waiting for him to come good for like 2 seasons now. This has to be his season. This has to be his final like breakout season that we've been waiting for. But yeah, I'm looking forward to like stacking. I'm going to stack a limited team. I'm going to pick a team in the J League, and I'm just going to put a little stack together and enjoy watching one of those teams. I've kind of got that in Korea. I watch Seoul a lot. I watch Daegu a lot. Similarly, and I feel like I want to do that. And you know, we're waiting to see if that J League license happens. But from the way Sorare are talking about it, they seem pretty confident they'll get it over the line. So just waiting to see that happen. Probably get a few fixtures out of the way. Maybe pay a little bit more money to get those stacks because they're a bit more cemented into the teams. But I think it's worth paying a bit more now. I've got way too many goalkeepers sat on the bench or rotated out, and I need to just pay the money at the moment and just make sure I've got entries. But yeah, looking forward to Asia. I think that's going to be fun. But yeah, have you got a favourite? Do you pay much Asia, Quinny, or not really?
I used to play it. So when it first opened, or when we first got the cards, I had a squad or 2. And I've been kind of like removing myself slowly ever since. But I do, like, again, there was a great comment here. Like the converse of what you're saying is sometimes you wake up on a Saturday, and you've had a wee Arturo Osaka 100 or an 85 or something, and you've got one player that's your differential in like your all-star. Maybe now it'll be a captain mode or something people have been playing with. And you wake up and it's easy. You've got no sweat. The team news has been out already, and all the stuff that you normally have to worry about during a game, like don't get booked or don't get sent or whatever. It's all done, and you just wake up to that lovely green score, and you just slide it into your team and move on with your weekend. So I do like that element. I've still got Osaka. I've still held him the whole time. He's now in Korea, and
he'll be good. I think he's going to be great there.
I hope he's great, man. I hope he is, man. And I don't think I've got anyone else. I had Paolo Obina, long-term DNP keeper. I recently traded him out, but to get a more secure super rare goalkeeper option, like we're kind of talking about in previous episode. And I did have a Joe Chima Fujita, 1 of 100 rookie, which I was very proud of and was very attached to. But again, traded that out in the last week or two with a good SRD value in the effort of getting in like John McGinn or Edward or one of these cards that I've brought in over the last week or something. So I've just got Osaka. I think I've still got Tani, but I'm not holding my breath on him in the off season. because when it comes to like the European off season, I'm basically just hunkering in with MLS. Like I'm gonna I'm going to look forward to the increased coverage that we're going to get from that league in the off season, and I've got like a full NYC contingent, as many people out there will probably know already. I've got Gold and Russell on top of that, so like I don't really feel that I've got any need or urgency to add to my MLS roster. I can maybe use one more goalkeeper just for some security, but I think at the moment you could pick up a whole new division very cheaply and very modestly and, you know, whatever. But I think the only time those strategies really pay off is when you're motivated about doing it. And it's not that you're bored or you get, might as well do it, you know, or that looks too cheap not to buy. You know, those ones can go wrong. But if you're like, I'm going to watch a J League team this year, and you want to get right into it, like, oh, that manager, oh, I've heard of him, or was he the former manager of that team, or oh, they just signed this guy, you know, whatever. Then you get excited about a team and plug into it, then I think it's definitely a good way to go. But for me, I'll just be probably sticking with the old MLS for the European offs.
There's a couple of questions in the chat. First one was about the J League, and it was about coverage. Like, if the J League doesn't come on for next season, what happens to the cards, etc. So just as we know with other leagues, if the J League is not covered, it means it. So if they don't get the license, the leagues will still be covered because they're covered by Opta. So your cards will still score. You'll still be able to use them in Asia and in all the other sort of like all-star modes, under 23, etc., cap modes. But it just means that we won't have new cards from there, so they won't be in the prize pool. You won't be able to win cards from the J League because we won't have them for this season. Someone else has asked, why do all the J League cards have a blue or red cross now? That was a glitch. I've seen someone from Sorare reply, and it was a glitch at the moment. So all of the J League cards showed up with a blue cross today for whatever reason, but that was a mistake. That will probably disappear if it hasn't already happened today. It will probably they'll probably disappear today. Someone also said Asia won't open unless Korea is, though, and that's actually not entirely true. Well, it is true if Korea doesn't come on licensed as well. We need one of them. They need, so to open a region as they did this weekend for Asia, they usually only open a region if at least one covered club of that region is playing. And because obviously they don't have the J League license, they came out and said this week, we don't have the J League license, but we're confident that, you know, like that talks are where they are. So we've opened Asia this week with that one game. So they've opened it with just one fixture in the J League on Friday. So I would say that, like, with confidence, you can expect Asia to be open for the foreseeable future. But as someone in the chat mentions, if Korea and the J League both don't come on with licenses to mint cards, then they won't, because they will have nothing in the prize pool. They would have to open the Australian League or the Saudi League or something like that, would have to come on in the Asia region to open it up again. But that doesn't mean your cards won't be useful in the cap modes and the All-Star still. They'll still be good for that. But yeah, someone said that they believe they'll get the license and we'll get a draft J League soon. That'll be interesting to see if we get a draft league, because
we should get an MLS one.
Are they going to do an MLS one? Have they said that?
I think it's either really strongly rumoured or basically confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, they do these licenses with them, right? I think anywhere where they get the full league, it wouldn't hurt, right? It's just it's somewhere extra for people to play. A lot of free to play. There must be a lot of free play players now as well, right? There must be a lot of people who just play free play modes.
I made a video yesterday about that semi-pro division, and I think, see, if I started this game, like, I would just be in the deep end with that stuff. Like, yeah. I think you can have tons of fun there, and you can really like flex your edge on info, like, quite well. You know, obviously it's limited at the moment to the top 5 leagues, and from what the chat are saying, you know, MLS is coming. That is confirmed. I think I kind of knew that was around, but thanks for the quadruple confirmation of Human Alien and Jonathan. Thanks a lot. But if J League was to come on as well, then I think like you would have, you know, you'd have 12-month coverage across the free play stuff, and like I think it'd be very easy to be a free to play player. And like whenever we've done this podcast before, Stish, and we're kind of doing that blue sky thinking about platform and when prem and what happens and all the rest of it. You know, it's always one of these things where the free game or the entry level has to be like easy pick up and play, has to be fun, has to be engaging. And I think that semi-pro division, even just that dynamic alone, 4 commons, 1 limited, you have to have under 10 limiteds. I think, and again, with them putting Premier League tickets in there last week, and who knows what they'll do going forward, with other divisions and that. I think it's a great time to be a free-to-play player, in that sense. And it's one of those ones where, like, yeah, obviously the more free-to-play players there are, like, it's good for some of the graphs and some of the numbers. Some people don't care because those people don't enter the market, as it were. But, like, everyone starts in this game in a totally different frame of mind, place in life, attitude towards what they're going to get from it or whatever. And the most common person you're going to find that's going to have fun with this game is someone that can start off with it passively. Because for the last 2 years, you know what it's like, mate. Like, as soon as you find this and you get bit by the bug, you're in the deep end. It's a full-time hobby, like a full-time hobby, and like commons and limiteds now. Like, I think you could really be passive, go weekend to weekend, much easier.
I
don't know where that came from, but there you go.
I agree, and I think there's a couple of really good questions and comments in the chat. Again, we'll go to that. Magnus084 says, "Why is the Swedish league covered? Don't they have Opta coverage?" So the Swedish league is covered. It opened up when they launched the cards of Rosenborg.
Norway. We don't have Sweden. We don't have Sweden. Sweden's still a Blue Cross league.
Oh, is it? So wait, who's Rosenborg? Is Rosenborg in Denmark? Am I getting mixed up? Is it
Norway?
Norway. Okay. Yeah. So there's a few leagues that are. Yes, that's right. So we don't have the Swedish league. You're right. So the Swedish league is not covered. I was actually speaking to when we had the Sorare meetup the other week. We were kind of like bugging Dan about this, weren't we? It's like, when are we going to get all of these leagues covered and that? And it's like a business thing, right? If they have to pay to sort of like use the Opta coverage from any of these leagues, and also the Opta coverage has to be of I think it's like tier 13 level of coverage or something like that, which means, you get all the stats. Because if they don't have that, then you might only get decisives and you might only get and then like that ruins the game, because if you've only got decisive, people are going to get upset that their player's not scoring all around, blah, blah, blah. It causes problems, right? Yeah, Salabanzi says, I need to study up on the Scandinavian. My geography is all right. For some reason, I just forgot which country Rosenborg was in. But
easy one to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of leagues that they could cover that have the level of Opta coverage, like the Qatar League, like the Australian A League, like the Greece Premier League. There's lots of leagues that they don't currently cover, which they could. But in order,
Sweden is one of them, by the way. Sweden is covered to the appropriate level, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Before in the pod,
in terms of Opta, so like, but the only thing that it costs them money to access that Opta information, apparently. So it's only justified if they mint a club from that league, because then they can cover it. So the really strange one amongst all of this, when you think about it, is Shakhtar in Ukraine, where you can buy Shakhtar cards, but they're only covered in UEFA competition. And I don't know if that's because of Opta coverage. Maybe the Opta's not to the level that they need, but that's like that's the big outlier in all of this. But I
think it's an opportunity situation, but because Shakhtar is a club that we've had on platform for ages. Yeah. And if you've got a Champions League club happy to join the platform when they've only got like the Belgian league and whatever, you're not going to say no to it. You'll just say, I geez it. Sign us up, But I think as well, like, I know, like, we're not going to get into the geopolitical stuff, right? But obviously there's a lot of, very horrible things happening in Ukraine at the moment. But I think there's been protracted things in Ukraine for a while. And I think that, like, I remember when joining the platform before all the recent stuff happened over there thinking, there's probably, because of the stuff that's going on over there, they maybe don't have Opta people to go to every league and every game in the league and cover it appropriately. It's maybe an infrastructure thing, because there was a tense situation there for years, even before the recent stuff over the last year or two. But you're right, it is an odd one. But I think it's just their Champions League status, and maybe when Sorare found them, they only had like a couple of licenses, and it's like, okay, cool, on you come.
I definitely think that maybe in the next 12 months there'll be a lot of new leagues covered, because now they've got the Prem on board. Like, what league wouldn't, who have that Opta coverage? Let's say the Swedish league, the Greek, the Australian, the Qatar, the Saudi. All of these leagues that do have that level of Opta coverage, even if we wanted to get really deep into it, I think the Netherlands Division 2 and the Belgian Division 2 has it. And there's a lot of like more sort of D2s that could potentially open up as well. Whether or not that's a good thing is another discussion. But there's definitely a lot of like top level. I think, especially in the Asia region, be great to have a few more opened up
Big
there,
time.
especially in terms of club coverage, you know, like cards minted, because at the moment we are reliant on J League and K League for prizes. There's no reason that, you know, like the Saudi League or the Australian League could like enter that region and really like make those prize pools, beef them up a little bit, because I think they might look a little bit lacking, especially if it takes a while to get this J League license over the line in the next few weeks or months, however long it might take. But yeah, that'll be really interesting. But I would expect now like full leagues onboarded more regularly. Not that there's too many more they really need to do, but there's a few easy wins there. And for me personally, I don't know if anyone else is the same. I know there's a lot of people that think there's too much of a supply, blah, blah, blah. Probably is the case. But I think coverage of everything that we can cover is important. There's a lot of red crosses on the platform as well that don't really need to be red crosses. Like I've definitely got a few Greek or players in the Greek league at the moment that I'd love to get some coverage. Kleinheisler, he broke our hearts.
Big time.
He moved to the Greek league, and I'd love to see his scores in amongst my SO5 selections again. But I'm not going to sell him for that reason, that I do believe personally, I haven't had any like insider info, but it just makes sense, right? They've got to start covering these leagues at some point. If you can be patient and maybe just sit on that card for the next year, surely within the next year to 18 months, we'll get the Greek league, we'll get the Swedish league. You know, all these cards that we've all got sat with little red crosses next to them will start to disappear. And this is how people like Pavel make a living on this platform, because he sits on red crosses for months, years. And then the minute that those leagues get unlocked, he has a party, because he'll sell so many of them in that space of like an hour, with people trying to pick up a quick bargain, a big red cross. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. But we've got one more highlighted message here, Quinny. How do you think the returning leagues will impact cards with current utility?
What do you mean, sorry?
I'm assuming that they mean by that, like, we're going to have more cards that you can use again. So maybe like it might impact like the competition in some of those cap modes. There's like suddenly all these, there's lots more players from that kind of thing. Maybe.
I think it's going to be very exciting. I think we maybe even touched on this last week a little bit, right? But the prize pools will go up, right? Because there's more cards now to be issued. We might have a little bit of a bottleneck on some of these, depending on when they begin new season issues for the leagues that are coming into a new season at the moment, because they'll still be on the dregs of last season's issuance, depending on where those serial numbers are, you know. But generally, more leagues come on equals more prizes for the bigger divisions. This is everyone's first time experiencing that with all the cap modes, which for all intents and purposes, Stish, are like different versions of All-Star. You know, there's no restriction on them other than the cap itself. So that means those prize pools, tier 1, tier 2, they could be littered with everything and anything. Asians, MLS, Austrian, Premier League, La Liga, and everything in between. So I think that helps. We were kind of speaking about this in the pod already. I think that helps maintain a high quality of tier 2, tier 3, because you've got much more further reach to go for.
Yeah.
So, and those are the price pools that generally get extended. You know, you don't see stars going from 10 to 40. You know, stars will go from like 10 to like 14 or something, you know, 12. And then it's the tier 3s and the tier 2s that bulk out, you know. So I wouldn't be worried about it, but it means you need to be putting yourself in more different frames of mind. Like, oh, if I had better cards than me, where would I be interested in going? Or where could I be interested in going that no one else is going to be picking their team first for there? They're picking their team third or fourth. There's more of those opportunities coming out because there's just so many more. We're talking about the Asian players. Like, they make a huge differential impact on the leaderboard. If we're all waking up in the morning and we've seen Daegu have killed somebody and Kawasaki have ran a train through somebody and, you know, whatever, then, you know, these cards can really shake it up. In that sense, you don't need to have the Kimmich, you don't need to have the Mbappe, you don't need to have the, you know, the De Bruyne or whatever, because some of these guys kill just as hard, you know. So it can make it a bit, because then what you find is sometimes those cards retreat. You maybe see less of them in All-Star and they go into Champion a bit more on the regular. You know, so there'll be a lot of things we'll all be discovering this time around, but from times gone by, that's the words that I want to say.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. it, like I said, it could increase the quality of the pools, definitely the size of the pools, but yeah, we might unearth a few more gems. Yeah, like there'll be certain cards out there that you can pick up for £5 to £10 now that then turn out to be like the next breakout U23 player in like a random team in America next season or something. And we have that with like people like Slonina, like last year. Pre the MLS season kicking off, you could have picked him up for about £80 and sold him for about £3,000 probably at the top end of his price point. But that is something that I think happens a lot, and I would expect that. Yeah, I think all the points Quinny's just said, but also in terms of like the negative side of it, it will also result in people who win star cards winning stuff that they don't think is a star, because maybe, you know, we've got the Prem, we've got all of these big leagues. Winning a star from Asia or America might not seem that impressive to someone who has, you know, entered those divisions to win a Haaland or an Mbappe. And we've seen that on social media quite a bit with a few users that maybe won a star card and it wasn't Mbappe because they just hope, you know, we all hope to win an Mbappe, but you can't win Mbappe every week. Even if he's in the pool doesn't mean that the top place player will win that card. And yeah, when we've got stars from Asia and America in the pool, we definitely open ourselves up to more of that, I think. So you take the rough with the smooth. There'll be a lot. I think there'll be more cards to win and better cards in those pools. But I do think we'll probably see a lot more people moaning about what they've won, especially if they're in the tier zeros as well. There's one more question that's actually posed directly to you, Quinny. Says Quinny, it comes from C Jolly 2299. They say, Quinny, I'm not very knowledgeable of Scottish footy. What are your thoughts on how Carter Vickers will perform over the next few weeks?
I've responded to him in the chat with the latest nickname that I've heard for him, which is, I think it's an absolute belter, and that's Cameron Carpet Slippers. So I think he's brilliant, mate. He's solid as a rock. We've had rumours in the last week that Starfelt is going to be eyed up by some Premier League clubs in the summer, which is perfect news for Celtic. Business-wise, you know, Starfelt's clearly the oldest centre-back we've got. CCV, this is the first season of us owning him. He'll definitely, in my opinion, want a good European campaign under his belt with us next year. I don't think it would take some mad offer to come in for him to leave us. I think he's relatively safe at the club for the next 12 months or so. And his scores are solid as they come. He's one of the best defenders in the game for me at the moment.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But coming from your mouth, it makes a lot more sense because everyone knows that you are the Celtic man around here.
Glad everyone thinks so.
Yeah. So I think that about wraps us up. I'm looking forward to the game week. We're looking forward to some regions opening in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have all sorts going on. So if anyone is watching this on Twitch, please do give us a follow on here. If you use Amazon Prime, you can actually subscribe to the channel for free using your Prime. You get a Prime sub for free on Twitch, and that supports us. So we'll appreciate that. We'd also appreciate a follow on YouTube. Quinny's channel will be the place you can watch this back or listen to it, whichever way you like to consume content. And of course, we are available on all good podcasting platforms. This should be live probably tomorrow morning. We normally try and get it out the morning after. Quinny's always quick on the draw there. So yeah, please do drop us some comments on YouTube. Give us a review on all the platforms. And yeah, thanks for lending us your ears for the last hour and a bit. And hopefully we'll have you back again next week. Quinny, it's been a pleasure as always. Good luck.
Pleasure, buddy. Good luck.
And I'll catch up with you again next week. Cheers, everyone.